In this video, we are going to solve the Leetcode problem of the day, and the problem is solving questions with brain power. This is a medium level of question, but if you know the trick, if you know the approach, then it will seem very easy to you. The only thing you need to know is DP. DP means dynamic programming. So if you know about the concept of dynamic programming, this question will be very easy to you. Let me explain you how. In this question, we have an input questions, and this is a 2D array, two-dimensional array in which each element is an array. We are given some set of questions, and each question is having two data. First one is points, and second one is brain power, or you can call it as skip. What we need to do is we need to solve these questions, and we need to find out how much maximum points we can collect after solving these questions. For example, if you are able to solve all these questions, then the maximum point you can create is 3 from here, 4 from this one, 4 from this one, and 2 from this one. If you sum it up, it will be equal to 13. But the output is 5 because there are certain rules which are associated with solving each of these questions, right? So again, let me tell you that the first one is the points, and the second data is the brain power. Now this brain power is the trick here. The thing is, if you solve a particular question, then you are not allowed to solve the next 2 question, or the next 3 question, or the next 4 question, or the next 5 question. What I mean by this is, if you solve any question, for example, let us take any random question, let us take this one. If you solve this one, 4 is your points and 3 is your brain power. Points is something which you will get and you can add it in your output. Initially your output should be 0, and if you get 4 points, your output can be 4. But this 3 is the brain power which you are using. This 3 means that you need to skip solving the next 3 questions, or if it is 2, you will have to skip solving the next 2 questions. So that's the 2 data we have. The points we can get, that's our gain, but we have a loss. The loss is you cannot solve the next 2 question or whatever number is given in the brain power. Now for example, if you solve this one, you will get 3 points, but it is saying it is using 2 brain power, so you cannot solve the next 2 questions. So let us solve this one now. Now this will give us 2 points, and then you cannot solve the next 5 questions, although we do not have any more questions left. But if there were more questions left, you will not be able to solve the next 5 questions. How much point did we get? 3 from here and 2 from here. Total is equal to 5, and that is our output. Now this is the explanation of this particular question. What is the input all about, and what is the output we need to give? But what is the approach? What can be the approach through which you can solve this particular question? Now I told you in the start that if you know about DP, dynamic programming, this will be very easy for you. Now the question is, why should I go for dynamic programming? Why should I not go for like greedy approach? So the thing is, you will need to understand what is this pattern, what is the pattern in this particular question. If you are trying to solve it using greedy approach, okay, so the first question I get it, I will solve it and I will get 3 points. I will skip the next 2 questions, so these 2 are skipped. So let me solve this one, so it will give me 2 points. That's it. 3 plus 2 is 5. It seems correct, right? It seems correct that the moment you get a question, solve it, but that's not correct, okay? And the reason is, let's imagine that this is not 3, this is 1, and if it is 1, then in this case the output should be 6 and not 5. But if you are following the greedy approach, you will anyhow skip these data, right? So if you solve this one, you will have to skip this one without even looking at them, and that's wrong, right? If this is 3 and 2 and you skip these 2, you are getting 5. But if you skip this one, don't solve this one, directly skip this question and solve this one, and if it is 4 comma 1, you will get 4 points, and then you will have to skip this question, and then again you can solve this one to get 2 points. The total will be equal to 6, and that is why we cannot solve it using greedy approach. Now what is the dynamic programming approach here? The approach is, you will have to check for each questions that should I solve it. If I will solve this question, I will get 3 points, that is my gain, and I will have to skip the next 2 questions, that is my loss. Now there is a decision making here. Should I solve this one and skip these 2, or should I directly skip this one and then I will have a chance to look at this question and solve this? If you have just these 2 data as an input, you will want to skip this one to get 4 points, right? If you solve this one, you will have to skip this question. So now it seems like we need to have some decision making here. Okay, so let's try to understand how dynamic programming is going to help us solve this particular question, and that will be very easy. The first question is 3 comma 2. You just have 2 choices. You can solve this or you can skip this. If you solve it, you will get 3 points, right? But then you will have to skip the next 2 questions, and then you will have to jump on the last one, which is 2 comma 5. So let us move to the left of this tree and try to see how much points we can collect. So we solved this particular question, we got 3 points, right? We have 3 points, and then we have this question, which is 2 comma 5. Again we have same choice, okay? Either we can solve this or we can skip it. If we are going to solve this question, we are going to get 2 more points, right? And if we skip this question, then we will have a chance to solve the next question, and then we are getting 0 points, right? If we skip it, we are getting 0 points. Now you will notice that if you solve it or if you skip it, in both the cases the next question is none, right? So if there are no more questions left, you are not going to get any point. Now in this case, this particular question, when you are at this particular question, you have two choices and both are giving you 0 points. So the maximum you can get after solving or skipping this question is 0. So that's the first data you got. The maximum which you are getting after solving and skipping is 0. So should you solve it or should you skip it? Obviously you will like to solve this, right? You will not want to skip it, so that at least you get 2 points. Now again we got one more data. The data we got is, in case we reach to this particular question 2 comma 5, the maximum point we can generate is 2, and that's the first data we got. If we are at this question 2 comma 5, we can get a maximum of 2 points. That's the first thing we got. Okay, now we are back at 3 comma 2. If we solve 3 comma 2, we can have a chance to solve 2 comma 5, and 2 comma 5 is going to give us maximum of 2 points. So if you solve this particular question, you have 3 points and 2 points more which you can get after solving this one. So in case of 3 comma 2, we have got 5 points if we are solving this particular question. But let us see, if we skip this 3 comma 2, can we get more points? Now we know we will not get it, but let us see how. The thing is, if you skip this question, you are not getting 3 points, you are getting 0 points, right? You are getting 0 points. But you have a chance to solve the next question, which is 4 comma 3. Again you have the same choice, you solve it or you skip it. Now if you solve this particular question, you are getting 4 points, right? And once you solve it, you have no more choice left. So in case of 4 and 3, 4 comma 3 question, you can get 4 points if you solved it. But what if you skip this particular question? Once you skip this question, you will have a chance to solve the next question, which is 4 comma 4. And again we have the same choice. If you solve this 4 comma 4, you are getting 4 points. And if you skip this 4 comma 4, you are getting the chance to solve the next question, which is 2 comma 5 again. And in case of 2 comma 5, we know that the maximum point we can get is 2, right? So we are not going any more down. We are going to store these results, and here we can directly return 2, and we are going to return this to 4 comma 4. Now 4 comma 4 will see that if we try to solve this question, we are getting 4 points, and if you skip it, the maximum you can get is 2 points. In this case, you are going to solve this, right? And now we have a clear choice, 4 comma 4. Once we reach at 4 comma 4, we are solving it, and if we are solving it, we are getting maximum of 4 points. So 4 comma 4 is going to give us 4 points. And now we got another data. The data is about 4 comma 4. What about 4 comma 3? Now we are going to go back. So 4 comma 3 will see that if it solves the question, it is getting 4 points, and if it skips the question, the maximum it can get is 4. The reason is, if you skip it, you have the chance to solve 4 comma 4, and in 4 comma 4, the maximum value you can get is 4. So now the choice for 4 comma 3 is either solve it or skip it. You can do both because you are getting 4 points in both the cases. So in this case, 4 comma 3 will have a maximum point of 4. And now if you will see the most important data, that if you are solving this 3 comma 2, you are getting 5 points. If you are skipping it, the maximum which you can get is 4 comma 3, 4, right? So you have a clear choice. You can solve it and get 5 points. You can skip it and get 4 points. So you will definitely going to solve it because we need the maximum value. And that is the complete explanation of this question. It's that simple. You just have two choices, solve or skip, and each time you are going to store the result. Let me jump back to the code editor and show you how you can code this in Python. And after you see the code, the concepts and the code both will be crystal clear. So first of all, let me create a data list. This data list will be -1 for all the questions. So length of the questions. Initially -1 is the value. We are going to update this value. So let us try to update this value using a function def find. And for each index, we are going to update the value. And the data will be containing our data for each of the question, that if we are at this particular question, how much point we can generate at max. Now the first thing which you need to check here is if the value of I is more than the length of the questions -1. That's the last index you have, right? If any time your current index in this function is more than the last index, then you are going to return 0. And then we have another condition, elif the data of I is not equal to -1. This condition means that the data which we initialized is updated. So we have a value for a particular index. So we are not going to perform any more operation, and we can directly return the value of data of I. Now this is how we are using dynamic programming by storing some result. Now let us store the actual result, the actual logic. So the logic will be the data of I is going to be maximum of two things. The first one is, let us solve this question, okay? And if you solve this particular question, then you are going to get questions of I, that's your question. I is your index, and 0, this is your points. So you are able to get these much points. But now since you solved this particular question, you will have to skip few questions. So how much questions do you need to skip is questions of I and 1. These are the list of questions you will have to skip solving, and plus I plus 1. Whatever index we are at, we need to go to the I plus 1 index. We need to skip these much questions and go to the next index. And then again we need to call it using find function. So basically we are trying to again try to find the data for the next ith index, which is after skipping some questions. Now this is a choice after you solve a particular question. You might try to skip a question as well. So you have another choice that you skip this current question and try to find the next question. Find I plus 1. You just skip the current one and find how much value can you get after solving the next particular question. So the maximum of this value is going to be assigned at your data of I, that is your current index. And we are going to start with the starting index. Okay. So we need to start with the starting index. So for that we are going to say find with starting index 0. In the find, we need to return the data of I as well, right? We need to return the value as well. And ultimately, we need to return find of 0. Whatever the value at 0 index will be, that is going to be your maximum value. So this is your complete code. This is like a recursive solution with dynamic programming. And you just have two choices: solve it or skip the current question and move to the next one. So once you submit the code, you will find that you are able to solve all the particular test cases 54 by 54. So this particular question is solved now. So that's it for this video, guys. And if you liked the explanation of this particular video, then make sure that you hit that like button. And if you are not subscribed to my channel as of now, then make sure that you subscribe to the channel as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching this video, guys.